Yatha Shrivasadi. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 5. We're going to start reading chapter 13. Further talks between King Rahūgaṇa and Jaḍa. In the previous chapter, we heard how Jaḍa is giving very nice instructions to Maharaj Rahūgaṇa. Does anyone remember? What does he tell him? Something to do about
the body, that to detach yourself from the body.
Yes. And then he told him specifically what things to do.
Yeah, association of the devotees.
Yes, that's right. Association with the devotees. That's right. Taking the dust of the lotus feet of the devotees, association with the devotees, serving the spiritual master.
Water from the lotus feet of the devotees.
Yeah.
And serve in Vapu and Vani, with the Vapu and Vani.
Yeah. So
by doing all this, you can get detached from the material entanglement, and you can untie the knot just by the association of the devotees.
Yeah. That's right.
And you can awaken your Krishna consciousness.
Yes.
And you can go back to Godhead.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So then further talks between King Rahūgaṇa and Jaḍa. The Brahmana Jaḍa became very kind to King Rahūgaṇa, and to disassociate him from the material world, he spoke figuratively of the forest of the material world. He explained that this material world is like a great forest in which one becomes entangled due to association with material life. In this forest, there are plunderers, the six senses, as well as carnivorous animals like jackals, wolves, and lions, wife, children, and other relatives who are always anxious to suck the blood from the head of the family. The forest plunderers and the carnivorous blood-sucking animals combine to exploit the energy of a man within this material world. In this forest, there is also a black hole covered by grass, into which one may fall. Coming into the forest and being captivated by so many material attractions, one identifies himself with this material world, society, friendship, love, and family. Having lost the path and not knowing where to go, being harassed by animals and birds, one is also victimized by many desires. Thus, one works very hard within the forest and wanders here and there. He becomes captivated by temporary happiness and becomes aggrieved by so-called distress. Actually, one simply suffers in the forest from so-called happiness and distress. Sometimes he is attacked by a snake, deep sleep, and due to the snake bite, he loses consciousness and becomes puzzled and bewildered about discharging his duties. Sometimes he is attracted by women other than his wife, and thus he thinks he enjoys extramarital love with another woman. He is attacked by various diseases, by lamentation, and by summer and winter. Thus, one within the forest of the material world suffers the pains of material existence. Expecting to become happy, the living entity changes his position from one place to another. But actually, a materialistic person within the material world is never happy. Being constantly engaged in materialistic activities, he is always disturbed. He forgets that one day he has to die. Although he suffers severely, being illusioned by the material energy, he still hankers after material happiness. In this way, he completely forgets his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By hearing this from Jaḍa, Maharaj Rahūgaṇa revived his Krishna consciousness and thus benefited from Jaḍa's association. He could understand that his illusion was over, and he begged pardon from Jaḍa for his misbehavior. All this was told to Maharaj Parikshit by Sukadev Goswami. Brahmana Uvacha.
Brahmana Uvacha.
Duratya yedvani ajaya niveshito.
Duratye dhvani ajaya niveshito.
Rajas tamasatva vibhakta karmadrik.
Rajas tamasatva vibhakta karmadrik.
Sa esha sartho ratha para paribhrahman.
Sa isya sarto sa para paribhrahman.
Bhavatavim yati na sharma vindati.
Bhavatam yati na sharma vindati.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jaḍa, who had fully realized Brahman, continued, "My dear King Rahūgaṇa, the living entity wanders on the path of the material world, which is very difficult for him to traverse, and he accepts repeated birth and death. Being captivated by the material world, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, Sattva-gun, Rajogun, and Tamogun, the living entity can see only the three fruits of activities under the spell of material nature. These fruits are auspicious, inauspicious, and mixed. He thus becomes attached to religious, economic development, sense gratification, and the monastic theory of liberation, merging with the Supreme. He works very hard day and night, exactly like a merchant who enters a forest to acquire some articles to sell later for profit. However, he cannot really achieve happiness within this material world. One can very easily understand how difficult and insurmountable the path of sense gratification is. Not knowing what the path of sense gratification is, one becomes implicated in the repetition of birth and accepts different types of bodies again and again. Thus, one suffers in material existence. So, because of ignorance, we don't know who we are, we don't know what choices to make. So, we may make the wrong choices, we may get some reaction, which keeps us here in the material world, makes us take different bodies here in the material world. In this life, one may think that he's very happy being an American, Indian, Englishman, or German, but in the next life, one has to accept another body among 8,400,000 species. The next body has to be immediately accepted according to karma. One will be forced to accept a certain type of body, and protesting will not help. That is the stringent law of nature. So we may think, well, let me do whatever I want in this life. Anyway, who knows the next life? But here we are clearly being said that that is material nature's law, that as soon as we give up one body, the other body is already waiting for us. And that will depend on how we have acted in this life and in previous lives. We've even forgotten how we've acted, so we don't know what's coming up next. And how we act in this life, we are making our future bodies. Due to the living entity's ignorance of his eternal blissful life, he becomes attracted to material activities under the spell of Maya. So why do we become attracted to material activities?
Due to ignorance
Ignorance of what?
that we are the body and not the soul. Due
That
to
we
this
are the
ignorance.
soul, not the body.
Sorry, we are the soul and not the body. Due to this ignorance, we get attracted to the material.
And that we are soul and we are eternal and always blissful.
Yeah.
We forget that. And that's the reason we are so attached to this material world. In this world, he can never experience happiness, yet he works very hard to do so. This is called Maya. So Maya is what keeps us here, makes us feel we are happy. We don't even know what is real happiness, but that's on the spiritual platform. This is what we are hearing over here. This is what Jaḍa is telling to Maharaj Rahūgaṇa, that we are very happy in whatever situation we are. We are thinking we are very happy, I'm this or I'm that, or I have this or I have that. We don't even realize that we are suffering in this material world. Yasyam imeshan naradeva desyavaha.
Yasyami imeshat nardev tasyavaha.
Sartham vilumpanti kunayakam bala.
Sa artham vilumpanti kunaya kambalat.
Umayavayatra haranti sarthikam.
Gomaya vaya haranti sa arthikam.
Pramattamaveshya yathoranam vrikaha.
Pramat
aveshya yathoranam vrikaha.
O King Rahūgaṇa, in this forest of material existence, there are 6 very powerful plunderers. When the conditioned soul enters the forest to acquire some material gain, the 6 plunderers misguide him. Thus, the conditioned merchant does not know how to spend his money, and it is taken away by these plunderers. Like tigers, jackals, and other ferocious animals in a forest that are ready to take away a lamb from the custody of its protector, the wife and children enter the heart of the merchant and plunder him in so many ways. In the forest, there are many plunderers, dacoits, jackals, and tigers. The jackals are compared to one's wife and children. Wow, imagine it. In the dead of night, jackals cry very loudly, and similarly, one's wife and children in this material world also cry like jackals. The children say, Father, this is wanted, give me this, I'm your dear son. Or the wife says, I'm your dear wife, please give me this is now needed. In this way, one is plundered by the thieves in the forest. Not knowing the aim of human life, one is constantly being misguided. The aim of life is Vishnu. Nate vidusvartha gatim hi Vishnu. Everyone works very hard to earn money, but no one knows that his real self-interest is in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nate vidusvartha gatim hi Vishnu. Swartha, real self-interest, is not selfishness, self-interest. So artha, what things that are needed. So self. So that is in serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Instead of spending money for advancing the Krishna consciousness movement, one spends his hard-earned money on clubs, brothels, liquor, slaughterhouses, and so forth. Due to sinful activities, one becomes implicated in the process of transmigration and thus has to accept one body after another. Being thus absorbed in a distressed condition, one never attains happiness. Any comments?
That's what we are seeing. It's happening.
Sorry, your voice was breaking. Couldn't hear you very well.
Yeah, that's what we are seeing. That's truly what is happening now.
Yeah. Yeah. That is the status of the society now. So we don't even know how we are being implicated. Prabhu Tavirut Tranagul Magahavare
Prabhu Taviru Trinakul Magabare
Kathoradam Sher Mashater Upadrutaha
Kathoradam Shema Shakti Upadruta
Kvachit tu Gandharvapuram Prapashyate
Kvachit Gandharvapuram Prapashyati
Kvachikcha Surayol Mukagraham
Kvachit Kvachit Shashurayo Mukagraham.
Sorry, Shilpa ji, I just had one question regarding the previous one. That as he said here, that they are like the family is like, the children are like the jackals and the wife and like that. And then we also mention about our duty, that the grah's duty is to take care. So then how do we understand? How do we compare these two things?
So taking care and giving them Krishna consciousness. Then we are taking care of a Krishna conscious family.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just fulfilling
Now
the
what
unreasonable
happens?
demand is
I'm
not
sorry?
Krishna. And
I'm sorry?
fulfilling the unreasonable demands and
Yeah.
everything,
See,
that is
what
not
is
what
needed
is
is needed.
duty.
Yeah. See, Shri Upanishad also says, take what is needed. Take what is needed, understanding who is the owner, understanding who is coming from. Because we are in the material world, of course, we have our needs. So it's being said that the householder should understand that, okay, this is my duty, I'm doing my duty, and then giving Krishna consciousness to his family. So,
that is the duty, right? So as when we talk about the grahastha duty, that is his duty.
Yeah, he
to
has to
make the
take care
family
of his
Krishna
family.
consciousness. Yeah, that
Yes.
is the duty, right? But
Yeah.
not like as in the paragraph here mentioned that you go to the clubs and you go to all these, and that's not the duty. That is wrong when you're doing that
Yeah.
with the family, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, of course, we'll do it, then we are going to get the consequences.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. In this forest, there are dense bowers composed of thickets of bushes, grass, and creepers. In these bowers, the conditioned soul is always disturbed by cruelly biting mosquitoes, envious people. Sometimes he sees an imaginary palace in the forest, and sometimes he is bewildered by seeing a fleeting fiend or ghost, which appears like a meteor in the sky. The material household is actually a whole operative activity. To earn a livelihood, one engages in different industries and trades, and sometimes one performs great sacrifices to go to higher planetary systems. Apart from this, at least everyone is engaged in earning a livelihood in some profession or occupation. In these dealings, one has to meet many undesirable people, and the behavior is compared to the biting of mosquitoes. This creates very undesirable conditions. Even in the midst of these disturbances, one imagines that he's going to construct a grand house and live there permanently, although he knows that he cannot. Gold is compared to a quickly fleeting find which appears like a meteor in the sky It displays itself for a moment and is then gone. Generally, karmis are attracted to gold or money, but these are compared herein to ghosts and witches. But it's true, no? They attract us, they bewitch us. This, the ghosts and this allurement, because we feel we need the better the living condition, the more the better, because we think we are going to live here permanently. So understanding, getting satisfied with what we have, understanding that take what is needed, basically.
So, Hare Krishna, so the karmi jan are compared to the bhoot pret and witches and ghosts, right?
No, the gold
Attracted.
and money
Oh, the
are
gold and
compared to
money.
witches. Yeah,
Okay.
gold is compared to like fiend. So it's like ghosts and witches, gold and money.
Hmm.
So, but we may be in that situation, we may be in a not a very desirable situation. So we continue to hear and chant. If we cannot get out of the situation, we continue to engage in our devotional service and accept it as our past karma and that what we have to go through, If we can change the situation, we change it. If we can't, just accept it and continue with Krishna consciousness.
Okay.
Nivasato yadravinaatma buddhis
Nivasatoya buddhis
tatas dhavati bo atavyam
tato vadhavati bho atavyam
vachikcha vyatyoti tapam sudhumra
क्वचित् तवाप्या उन्नति पाम सुधृमा
disho na janati rajasvalakshah.
दिशो न जानाति रजवलक्षसः.
My dear king, the merchant on the forest path of the material world, his intelligence victimized by home, wealth, relatives, and so forth, runs from one place to another in search of success. Sometimes his eyes are covered by the dust of a whirlwind. That is to say, in his lust, he is captivated by the beauty of his wife, especially during her menstrual period. Thus, his eyes are blinded and he cannot see where to go or what he is doing. It is said that household attraction resides in the wife because sex is the center of household life. Yan maitunadi grahamedi sukham hitucham. A materialistic person, making his wife the center of attraction, works very hard day and night. His only enjoyment in material life is sexual intercourse. Therefore, karmis are attracted to women as friends or wives. Indeed, they cannot work without sex. Under the circumstances, the wife is compared to a whirlwind, especially during her menstrual period. Those who strictly follow the rules and regulations of householder life engage in sex only once a month at the end of the menstrual period. As one looks forward to this opportunity, his eyes are overwhelmed by the beauty of his wife. Thus, it is said that the whirlwind covers the eyes with dust. Such a lusty person does not know that all his material activities are being observed by different demigods, especially the sun god, and are being recorded for the karma of one's next body. Astrological calculations are called Jyotishastra. Because the Jyoti or effulgence in the material world comes from the different stars and planets, the science is called Jyoti Shastra, the science of the luminaries. So Jyoti Shastra because the light is coming from different planets or stars. By the calculations of Jyoti, our future is indicated. In other words, all the luminaries, the stars, sun, and moon, witness the activities of the conditioned soul. So we think no one's looking, but the demigods are looking. The demigods are witnessing. Thus, he is awarded a particular type of body. A lusty person whose eyes are covered by the dust of the whirlwind of material existence does not at all consider that his activities are being observed by different stars and planets and are being recorded. So one may say, oh, well, in the daytime there are no stars, no planets, but they're still there. It's just we can't see them because the sunlight is so bright. We can see them in the night because the sunlight is not there. Not knowing this, the conditioned soul commits all kinds of sinful activities for the satisfaction of his lusty desires. No, we didn't even realize that. Okay, the sun, the stars, the planets, they are the witness to our activity. And then all our activities are being recorded.
In Bhagavad Gita also they say, that there are the Sakshis. Even the Vayu, the Jal, everybody is a Sakshi, Surya Dev.
In Bhagavad Gita? Where it says?
In one
Oh,
of the
really?
chapters, when Prabhuji, the Kshetra, Kshetragya and the Sakshi. So then he explained that the Sakshis, then how many Sakshis are there?
Okay.
It's the Kshetra, Kshetragya, and then there's also no Sakshi ke ye itne Sakshi hain.
Okay.
So he explained all the Sakshis. I think there were 12 or something like that. And in that also came the Surya Dev. I'll send you the link. I'll send you that, where he explains that there are Sakshi, and he explained all the 12. I think there are 12 or 13. I'm forgetting the number because I'm not that good, but he explained that these are all the Sakshis who are recording our every moment, what we are doing. They are recording it. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Adarshya Jille Swanakarna Shula.
Adrashya Jilli
Swanakarna Shula.
Ulluka Vagbir Vyathitantaratma.
Ulluka Vagbir Vyatati Antaratma.
Apunya Vrikshan Shrayate Shudhardito.
Apunya Vrikshan
Shrayate Shudhartaha.
Marichito Yani Abhidavati Kvachit.
Marichito Yani Abhidavati Kyachit.
Wandering in the forest of the material world, the conditioned soul sometimes hears an invisible cricket making harsh sounds, and his ears become very much aggrieved. Sometimes his heart is pained by the sounds of owls, which are just like the harsh words of his enemies. Sometimes he takes shelter of a tree that has no fruits or flowers. He approaches such a tree due to his strong appetite, and thus he suffers. He would like to acquire water, but he is simply illusioned by a mirage, and he runs after it. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that the Bhagavad philosophy is meant for people who are completely free from envy. Paramo nirmatsaranam. completely free from envy. Bhagavatam is saying Bhagavad philosophy is for the non-envious. The material world is full of envious people. Even within one's inner circle, there is much backbiting, and this is compared to the sound vibration of a cricket in the forest. One cannot see the cricket, but one hears its sounds and thus becomes aggrieved. When one takes to Krishna consciousness, one always hears unpalatable words from relatives. This is the nature of the world. One cannot avoid mental distress due to the backbiting of envious people. Being very much aggrieved, sometimes one goes to a sinful person for help, but he has no means to help because he has no intelligence. Thus, the living entity is disappointed. This is like running after a mirage in the desert in an effort to find water. Such activities do not produce any tangible results. Due to being directed by the illusory energy, a conditioned soul suffers in so many ways. We don't even realize these things, no? We don't realize that these are sufferings. The envy that is directed towards us, that's compared to cricket making noise. Or we sometimes we don't know what to do, so we approach someone, but then he himself doesn't know how to help us. That's called like a running after a mirage in the desert. Vachit vitoya sarito bhiyati
Kvachit
Kvachit vitoya sarito
sarito
apyati.
abhiyati.
paras param chal chate daha.
Paras
Parasparam
param cha
charashate
alishate
nirantaha.
nirantaha.
Asadya davam kvachidagni
Asadyavam
Asadyadavam
kvachit
kvachit
agnitapto.
tapto.
nirvidyate kvacha yakshe
Nirvidyate
Nirvidyate
kvachit
kvachar yakshe hitashu.
Sometimes a conditioned soul jumps into a shallow river or being short of food grains. He goes to beg food from people who are not at all charitable. Sometimes he suffers from the burning heat of household life, which is like a forest fire. And sometimes he becomes sad to have his wealth, which is as dear as life, plundered by kings in the name of heavy income taxes. When one is hot due to the scorching sun, one sometimes jumps into a river to gain relief. However, if the river is almost dried up and the water is too shallow, one may break his bones by jumping in. Yeah, sounds painful. The conditioned soul is always experiencing miserable conditions. Sometimes his efforts to get help from friends are exactly like jumping into a dry river. By such actions, he does not derive any benefit. He only breaks his bones. Yeah, because sometimes we may need help and there's nobody to actually help us. Sometimes suffering from a shortage of food, one may go to a person who is neither able to give charity nor willing to do so. Sometimes one is stationed in household life, which is compared to a forest fire. Samsara davana lalita loka. When a man is heavily taxed by the government, he becomes very sad. And we can see, the taxes that the government exact. Heavy taxation obliges one to hide his income. But despite this endeavor, the government agents are often so vigilant and strong that they take all the money anyway, and the conditioned soul becomes very aggrieved. Thus, people are trying to become happy within the material world, but this is like trying to be happy in a forest fire. No one need to go to a forest. No one need to go to a forest to set it ablaze. Fire takes place automatically. Yeah, like forest fires, they just happen by the friction of the wood and the wind. It's not that somebody's gone to light the fire. Similarly, no one wants to be unhappy in family life or worldly life. But by the laws of nature, unhappiness and distress are forced upon everyone. So we may say, no, I don't want unhappiness or distress, but it's a law of nature. We can't escape it. To become dependent on another's maintenance is very degrading. Therefore, according to the Vedic system, everyone should live independently. Only the Shudras are unable to live independently. They are obliged to serve someone for maintenance. It is said in the Shastras, Kalo Shudra Sambhavaha, in this age of Kali, everyone is dependent on another's mercy for the maintenance of the body. Therefore, everyone is classified as a Shudra. In the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that in Kali Yuga, the government will levy taxes without reciprocally benefiting the citizens. Anavrishtya vinakshayanti durbiksha karapidata. In this age, there will also be shortage of rain. Therefore, a scarcity of food will arise, and the citizens will be very much harassed by government taxation. In this way, the citizens will abandon their attempts to lead a peaceful life and will leave their homes and herds and go to the forest in sheer disappointment. So this is what Bhagavatam predicts, that it's going to become so unbearable to live in the cities because the government laws are going to be so unfavorable. There'll be barely any food, that people will go and live in the forest.
And high taxes.
Yeah, we can see that's practically happening. Scarcity of food. Right now, we are having a scarcity of fresh food. Packaged food, there is lots. Grains, rice, all that is there lots. But fresh vegetables, they are, because of this protest going on, the transport is not so smooth. So we can really see a shortage of the fresh produce, over here currently.
Really.
Yeah.
And we can see inflation. That's
And
what it's so.
inflation and this protest is also happening because of the government, so we can see practically that
Because of
these
the
things are
corruption,
happening.
right? Because of the
That
corruption, right?
corruption, yeah, that's right. So we can see practically it's happening, and then because corruption happened and then now protests, so there's shortage of fresh vegetables, shortage of, so yeah, practically we can see.
You can see all this, yeah.
Shureridasva kvancha nirvinachitaha.
Shurihitasva kvacha vinachetaha.
Shochan vimuyan upayati kashmalam.
Shochan
vimuyan
upayati
upayati kashmalam.
kashmalam.
Vachikcha gandharvapuram pravishtaha.
Kvachit
Jagandharva
Gandharva
puram
Puram
pravishtaha.
Pravishtaha.
Pramodate nirvritavan muhurtam.
Pramodate
Nirvritavam
nirvritavratamuhurtam.
Sometimes being defeated or plundered by a superior, powerful agent, a living entity loses all his possessions. He then becomes very morose and lamenting their loss. He sometimes becomes unconscious. Sometimes he imagines a great palatial city in which he desires to live happily with his family members and riches. He thinks himself fully satisfied, if this is possible. But so-called happiness continues only for a moment. The word Gandharvapuram is very significant in this verse. Sometimes in the forest, a very big castle appears. And this is called a castle in the air. Actually, this castle does not exist anywhere but in one's imagination. And they say, oh, you're building sand castles. This is called Gandharvapura. In the material forest, the conditioned soul sometimes contemplates great castles and skyscrapers, and he wastes his energy for such things, hoping to live in them very peacefully with his family forever. However, the laws of nature do not allow this. When he enters such castles, he temporarily thinks that he's very happy, even though his happiness is impermanent. His happiness may last for a few years, but because the owner of the castle has to leave the castle at the time of death, everything is eventually lost. This is the way of worldly transactions. We don't even realize that we have to leave everything behind at one time. This is what Bharata is saying, that we are stressed so much for so many more things that we don't need, without realizing that one day we anyway have to leave it. Such happiness is described by Vidyapati as the happiness one derives upon seeing a drop of water in the desert. The desert is heated by scorching sunshine, and if we want to reduce the desert temperature, we need huge amounts of water, millions and millions of gallons. What effect will one drop have? Water certainly has value, but one drop of water cannot reduce the heat of the desert. In this material world, everyone is ambitious, but the heat is very scorching. What will an imaginary castle in the air do to help? Srila Vidyapati has therefore sung, Tatalas Saikate Vari Bindu Sama Sutamita Ramani Samaje. The happiness of family life, friends, and society is compared to a drop of water in the scorching desert. The entire material world is busy trying to attain happiness because happiness is the prerogative of the living being. Yeah, we all want to be happy. It's our need, it's the need of the soul. The soul has to be happy. Unfortunately, due to falling in contact with the material world, the living entity simply struggles for existence. Even if one becomes happy for a while, a very powerful enemy may plunder everything. There are many instances in which big businessmen suddenly become paupers in the street. Yet, the nature of material existence is such that foolish people are attracted to these transactions and they forget the real business of self realization. So, whatever we have is temporary. Only the devotional service, that is permanent. Whatever other assets we have, everything else is temporary. It will come, it will go, or we may have to leave it when we die. But whatever benefits we get by engaging in devotional service, those are eternal. Chalan kvachit kantakashar karan karirir.
Chalan kvachit kantaka shara karang grihi.
Nagaru rukshur vimana ivasate.
Nagaru rukshur vimana
ivasate.
Pade padebhyantaravaheenarditaha.
Pade pade vyantara vaheenarditaha.
Kautumbika krodhyati vaichanaya.
Kautumbika krudhyati varjanaya.
Sometimes the merchant in the forest wants to climb the hills and mountains, but due to insufficient footwear, his feet are pricked by small stone fragments and by thorns on the mountain. Being pricked by them, he becomes very aggrieved. Sometimes a person who is very attached to his family becomes overwhelmed with hunger, and due to his miserable condition, he becomes furious with his family members. The ambitious conditioned soul wants to be very happy in this material world with his family, but he is compared to a traveler in the forest who desires to climb a hill full of thorns and small stones. As stated in the previous verse, the happiness derived from society, friendship, and love is like a drop of water in the scorching heat of the desert. One may want to become very great and powerful in society, but this is like attempting to climb a hill full of thorns. We want big, we want a lot of things, we want fame, all that. They are saying it's like attempting to climb a hill full of thorns. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur compares one's family to high mountains. Becoming happy in their association is like a hungry man's endeavoring to climb a mountain full of thorns. Almost 99.9% of the population is unhappy in family life, despite all the attempts being made to satisfy the family members. In the Western countries, due to the dissatisfaction of the family members, there is actually no family life. There are many cases of divorce, and out of dissatisfaction, the children leave the protection of their parents. Especially in this age of Kali, family life is being reduced. Everyone is becoming self-centered because that is the law of nature. Even if one has sufficient money to maintain a family, the situation is that no one is happy in family life. Consequently, according to the Varna Sharma institution, one has to retire from family life in middle age. Pancha Shordhavam Manam Vrajet. One should voluntarily retire from family life at the age of 50 and go to Vrindavan or a forest. This is recommended by Srila Prahlad Maharaj, Bhagavatam 7.5.5. Tatsadu manye suravarya dehinam sada samudvignadiyam asadgrahan hitvatmapatam graham andakupam vanam gato yadharim ashrayeta. There is no benefit in transferring from one forest to another. One must go to the Vrindavan forest and take shelter of Govinda. That will make one happy. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness is therefore constructing a Krishna Balaram temple to invite its members as well as outsiders to come and live peacefully in a spiritual atmosphere that will help one become elevated to the transcendental world and return home back to Godhead. So for everyone, it may not be possible to go to the forest or to go to Vrindavan. So in our own homes, we can take up more spiritual activities, take up more hearing, chanting, worshipping the deity. Another sentence in this verse is very significant. Kautumbika krudhyati vaijanaya. When one's mind is disturbed in so many ways, he satisfies himself by becoming angry with his poor wife and children. The wife and children are naturally dependent on the father, but the father, being unable to maintain the family properly, becomes mentally distressed and therefore chastises the family members unnecessarily. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 12, Chapter 2, Text 9, Achinna Dara Dravina, Yasyanti Girikananam. Being disgusted with family life, one separates from the family by divorce or some other means. If one has to separate, why not separate willingly? Systematic separation is better than forced separation. Forced separation cannot make anyone happy, but by mutual consent or by the Vedic arrangement, one must separate from his family affairs at a certain age and fully depend on Krishna. This makes one's life successful. So, reducing that after a certain age, when the duties are taken care of, we can, get less involved in family matters and take up more and more spiritual activities. Take up some service in a local temple, or take up more hearing, more chanting, more worshipping. That is what is being recommended. Because anyway, at one time we will have to be separated. So Prabhupada is saying, why not separate by mutual consent? But so separation doesn't mean physical separation, but it just means engaging more in spiritual activities. After when the material duties are well taken care of, not so much of our attention is needed on that, then in adding on to the spiritual duties. Any comments?
So just one question, that Jaḍa is comparing the grahastha life as the jungle, right? Or this
Yeah,
material life is compared as the jungle. No, the grahastha,
yeah,
right?
both kind of, both are compared. Specifically here we are hearing about the grihas.
Grahastha. Okay.
We are here specifically hearing about grihas. Yeah, but material world itself is being compared to a forest fire.
I know that we read that when you are not engaging in devotional service, then when you are in this life in a grasta, then it's called Gramedi. That's why it says
Yeah,
Gram. So it's
yeah,
not grasta, right?
Gramedi, that's right. This is speaking about the Gramedi, when there is no
Krishna
devotional
consciousness.
service.
Devotional service.
When there is no Krishna consciousness in the
Where there's no
center.
Krishna
Family,
consciousness.
yeah.
Yeah, no Krishna consciousness. One does not understand the goal of life. That situation is being said.
And see how it says, no? Being disgusted with family life, one separates from the family by divorce or the means, which is true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's true,
They say you find so many divorces, no? Happening.
Yeah, it's true.
Actually, previously, even parents used to come in between and they would tell children. But these days, even parents don't. They say, if you don't like him, then leave him.
Because previously it used to be arranged, no marriage, but now it's like the children
Not
are finding them.
always, not always, but parents, they used to even teach children at that time. I remember my parents, I could never leave my glass on table after drinking water. I had to pick it and keep it in the basin. Had to. That was the duty. That was the must. That was the least thing they asked. That I cannot. But today, parents don't tell children that pick up your glass. No, okay. The helper will pick up. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, why
So
are
then,
you
what will
doing?
they tell?
Yeah.
What will they tell? It's not even about love. They don't want to. It's really. I hope we are not that kind of parents when the time is required. But yes, it's the bad condition is really bad.
And all this, I imagine he is told, Jadbaran.
This is the
Huh?
reality. We are seeing this.
That what we are seeing now.
Yeah, what we are seeing. It's
So
so
that's
apt.
why they
Like,
say that the learned, they can see the future,
Yeah.
the learned. Bharat, so many years ago, he's telling what's going to happen in Kali Yuga. What's the situation? So the remedy, Harina.
Harina.
Do our
But
duty, whatever is needed to be done, do it. At the same time, cultivate spiritual knowledge, engage in devotional service. And that's what we can do. Thank you so much for listening in and joining in. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.